But Bob is going to share a word with us in relationship to our annual giving campaign. Come up here, please. They can't hear you at home unless you speak into a microphone, so.
Oh, good. Somebody else left their speech up here.
We've already heard it, though.
I know. May the words of my lips and the meditations of my heart be always acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I've never spoken from this particular pulpit before, but, you know, I look across the back here and what we just heard from Lorraine, I feel a little bit like I'm trying to follow Billy Graham on Easter Sunday. So, I think I know most of you, but for those of you who I do not know and have not had the chance to meet yet, my name is Bob Hill, and I've been Episcopalian for all of my life, which equates to about 73 trips around the old sun. When I speak about St. John, certainly, yes, I reference the beautiful church and the grounds that we have here, but really, I think of all of us who are truly St. John's. Jane and I have been part of St. John's for about 39 years or so. So what has our journey been like? It did not take long for St. John's to become a vital part of our faith and our life. I can remember several occasions when this was especially meaningful to us. When our daughter Emily passed away in 2010, it was so many of the members of St. John's that held our hands, gave us hugs, and cradled us with love, compassion, and support in the most difficult part of our life. You know, we all expect to bury our parents. We don't expect to bury our children. But Jane and I take a great deal of comfort in the certain belief that Emily's soul is in heaven, and only a few steps from here, there's a memorial to her, a little plaque in the columbarium. Moving on to something more joyful, in times of joy, the marriage of our son, the birth of grandchildren, and occasionally an anniversary or a birthday. Again, who was there? Many of you at St. John's. Over time, Jane and I had the opportunity to become more involved in God's ministry here. Jane serving twice on the vestry, as preschool director, as a preschool board member, working with Godly Play and Sunday school. I did some stuff too. For us, St. John's is a place of love, a place of caring, and a place of uplifting emphasis of God's grace. Even when we have to gather to say goodbye to a loved one, or we gather to celebrate the joy of a new birth, a baptism, or a confirmation. So now, enough about us. Quickly on to stewardship. There was a time that I thought about stewardship as an obligation, but Jane and I now see it as a blessed opportunity. We all know that stewardship is the sharing of time, treasure, and talent. In the truth of it, we all know that treasure means money. And that's necessary for the business part of the church to sustain that operation as we practice our faith and endeavor to continue God's mission on earth. Hopefully, we can each give prayerful consideration to what we might be able to do financially. I once heard that you will never see a U-Haul following a hearse. You will never see a U-Haul following a hearse. You just can't take it with you. The Egyptians tried it, and all that happened to them is they got robbed. So let me also suggest the importance of time and talent. Each of us is good at something, and each of us has some measure of talent, whatever that may be. If you're like me, you may still be trying to figure it out. But I would say to you that not only supporting the church in its work with your time and talent, but you will also develop new relationships and pathways as part of your journey of faith. So time, talent, and treasure are all critical parts of stewardship. When David Bennett assigned me this date, he said for me to kind of look back and look forward and wrap things up. I didn't realize until this morning that it was the last Sunday of the church year, as I recall. And what a year it's been. Even so, we have accomplished a great deal with regard to what we have been able to do and sustain, even with all the difficulties that we faced. We heard from Joy about dealing with the issues of hunger and other outreach efforts. We heard from Susie about a coat drive and invite, welcome, connect. We heard from men about her joyful inspiration in her efforts of quilt making. We heard from Ken about the many efforts in the community beyond our walls. Helen, Kathy, and their crew kept the teaching garden going. Our tech crew made it possible for things to be broadcast outside of our walls. And last but not least, because I have to go home, with prayerful guidance and perseverance, Jane was able to open our beloved preschool. I would note that some of these things have a direct parallel connection to messages from the scriptures. And because I'm surrounded by clergy, I will paraphrase. I was hungry and you fed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was a stranger and you took me in and invited me in. And then Jesus said, bring the little children to me. Also consider the team that Sarah has put together to help lead us and inspire us in worship, with the addition of Marcia, there she is, Marcia and Stephen. Also consider our curates, Moetu and Amanda, who have been such a wonderful addition and soulful addition to our worship. Let's not forget Barb, Mimi, Tommy, Al, and so many others who have sustained the operations and beauty of St. John's. Truly, God has sent us blessings to enhance our worship and sustain our faith. In looking back over the past year and looking forward to the next year, I'm reminded of my all-time favorite hymn. Don't worry, don't worry. It is Amazing Grace. Jane has probably heard it 1,000,000 times in our life together. I believe it is the third verse that basically says, through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe this far, and grace will lead us on. Though it was a rough year, and we just talked about some of the things we've been able to do, certainly it was God's grace and the grace of so many that brought us safe thus far. As we consider what all of us are able to do with regard to stewardship going forward, reflect on the possibility of giving thanks in advance. Giving thanks in advance for this congregation and this place that we love so dearly as we continue our part of God's mission on earth. If that falls into place, then surely grace will lead us on. God's grace will lead us on. I conclude by quoting from my favorite rector, who often says, this comes with love. Thank you.
I never get applause after sermons, Bob.
Thank you. Walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself for us, an offering and sacrifice to God.